Hello, guys, and welcome to Oakland Mall here in Troy, Michigan. Really a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing mall that is definitely going to be here for many years to come. It is doing quite well for itself. Now, I will say history on this mall is a little bit more sparse than what I would have liked, but I am going to include what I know for this history here. Now, the mall originally opened in 1968, and the founder of the mall was the Krogan Companies. Now, also that year, two of the anchors opened, which was the Hudson's department store and the SS Kretzky, which was a junior anchor, which, if you guys know what that is, that was a five and dime store that would later become Kmart Corporation, which you guys obviously know. And I will also mention, too, that another anchor here is the former Sears, and that Sears opened up 3 years earlier in 1965. And we'll get to what that Sears became and why you guys don't really see it in this video. You guys see the mall entrance, it has a big painting over it, but you guys don't see what it looked like from the inside because it's not really attached to the mall anymore. As I said, we will get to that. But the next major expansion was in 1979 when it added the two-story wing. So basically the way this mall is laid out is this part that we just walked in, as well as this main wing from the former Sears to what's now Macy's, is one story. Well, they added expansion which made this mall into like a full cross, basically, like you guys see now. And that part of it near the JCPenney is 2 levels, which is very unique. It's not quite the same as what the former Monmouth Mall was in New Jersey, because that, you guys know, where like you had to go up and down. This one is just you can stay on the main floor or go down. But it still is very unique, and I find it interesting that they only made that part 2 stories. I would love to know what their plans were and like why they did that, and was this mall gonna ever be 2 stories in the whole mall? Only time will tell if it ever did. But now there really wasn't much that I could see from history, up until 1999 when a Borders Books and Music opened, which was a former Winkleman's clothing store. Now, fast fact about the Borders that was here. It was the first Borders to be open in a mall in the entire state of Michigan, which is kind of interesting because Borders was around since I believe the 1950s or 60s, and it would be gone only just over 10 years later. So why it took them this long to get into a mall in Michigan, kind of fascinating. But then in the year 2000, the start of a new millennium, you think it could be a new era for this mall? Well, the mall's movie theater closed, which I couldn't find the name of it, what it was, but that obviously was kind of surprising, and that was well before movie theaters really started to struggle in malls like we've seen today. But that spot was which later became the Steve & Barry's, which, if you guys know anything about Steve & Barry's, they were like a sports clothes store, and they overexpanded, and by 2008 they were gone. So they kind of reminded me of what H.H. Gregg was, which also overexpanded. Now, in 2001, the Hudson's department store that you guys saw was converted to a Marshall Field's, and the whole story about that I mentioned in the Macy's video was because Dayton Hudson's was founded what is now Target. And what happened is that the company only wanted what was a Target division. And the Dayton Hudson's department stores, they became May Company, and when they got out by May Company, Marshall Field's was chosen as the new name for them, as that name seemed to be doing well, kind of like Kaufman's did well up in the Northeast area, like you decided to know all mine became Kaufman's. Now, that space would obviously in 2006 be converted as part of the May Company Federated merger, and it became Macy's. Now, this mall was supposed to have a 4th major and department store, which was supposed to be a Lord & Taylor in 2004. For some reason, those plans never developed. I never found out why. They just never happened, and obviously if it would have left another huge hole in this mall. As you guys know, Lord & Taylor went out, so I guess it wasn't all that bad. Now, the Borders, like I mentioned, closed in 2011 when the whole company went belly up, but that space wouldn't sit empty very long. As in 2013, that space later became what is now and Forever 21, which is sadly closing. As you guys know, when I was here, there was no closing sign. It was not closing, but if you guys saw the news, 200 Forever 21s are closing. Rumor has it all of them, but for now only about half of them. And I can confirm this is definitely one of the ones that's closing. I saw a picture online. So that's not good, and it's right next to Macy's. But don't worry, this mall, I fully believe in will make it. Now, in late 2014, the furniture store, which moved into the Steve & Barry's, closed. In this area, it became the new Dick's Sporting Goods. So that's a good sign. And Dick's, I don't think, would ever close here, but you never know. Maybe the former Macy's could become a Dick's House of Sport. Would be kind of cool, and I would definitely fill a huge hole in this mall. And I would definitely film that, by the way, if that happened. But we'll see what happens. Now, in 2015 as well, H&M opened a 20,000 square foot store in the Macy's wing. And that year, a Field & Stream opened northwest of JCPenney. But then a year later, the mall was taken over by CBRE Company. Now, in 2015, which was such a huge year for the mall, Sears Holdings spun off 235 of its properties, including this Sears, into Serta's Growth Properties, which was another Eddie division. You know, Eddie had many names for his properties, kind of like Kohan, but it was still his. It didn't really change anything. And there also is a Krispy Kreme in the parking lot and a Longhorn Steakhouse. They are all powerful, and they are also owned by the Serta's Growth Properties. So those won't go anywhere either because they're giving Eddie money. But in any event, now in 2017, part of the Sears, it was split off to become At Home, in which I was in there. I didn't film it, but I was in there, and it still looks just like Sears. It's very cool. So basically, the Sears was subdivided, and only the front half was still operating. But a year later, in 2018, Sears announced that they would close the entire store as part of a plan to close 72 stores nationwide, and it closed September 2nd, 2018. But the good news is, 2/3 of the former Sears did later become a Hobby Lobby and a slime studio. So the good news is that at least they got redeveloped. But as I said, they're not technically part of the mall, and they walled off the mall gate, so I don't fully consider it, but at least, it still brings crowds into the mall, and it's right next to the mall entrance, so you could still get in by there. But in any event, in 2019, Dick's Sporting Goods sold the Field & Stream to Sportsman's Warehouse. In 2020, which was the same year of the pandemic, Oakland Mall was acquired by Central Cal Properties, but it was sold again in March 2022 to its current owner, Mario Kaczynski, which is why the name is the M. Kritzky Investments. It is named after him, who announced plans to renovate the mall, although as of 2025, I hadn't really seen any of those renovations yet, although I really don't want to see it because the way this mall looks now, especially the center area with that marble-ish floor and that fountain you see at the end, is really beautiful, and the main entrance was that glass entrance, really one of a kind. But in any event, in 2025, though, was the biggest hit for this mall, like I mentioned, as the Macy's announced it was pulling out as part of a plan to close 66 stores nationwide. Now, Macy's isn't closing here because of the state of the mall. Macy's is closing because that spot is huge, and they don't need a department store that big these days, and they're probably going to sell. And as I mentioned, maybe a Dick's House of Sport move in there, which even though it would leave the Dick's empty, would fill a much bigger spot, and I would be really excited. But comment down below what you guys could potentially see in that former Macy's. Alright guys, but I'm going to sign off talking some music in the rest of the video. If you guys did enjoy, you guys know the drill. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned to what I got next. I got a ton of videos coming up. The rest of my videos from this Michigan trip, as well as a trip that I took to Philadelphia out in February, so stay tuned for that. And lastly, also as well, I got some more updates from that closing Macy's that I've been giving updates from out in the Rochester area. But in any event, I'm going to sign off, like I mentioned, some music in. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Live from Troy, Michigan, Alex Weinsheimer's out. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye, guys.